Like you don't, if you're letting something die when it is already dying, like you like messed up, like you really want to leave at a high note. So that has been an interesting challenge lately.
I can't imagine that the idea, especially since you're a mom, because I can understand like so many of us will like say like our businesses, our children are our babies, right? Like Kim doesn't have children. Her and I are on the same like wavelength here. We will like we're soul sisters, and that's why we're like this. Our businesses are our baby, and if we have fur babies, that's additional. Like, nieces and nephews, they can come along for the ride, but thank God we get to give them back. Um, that that idea of you, and I know Kim has definitely been in that point. I mean, she already mentioned it, of letting go of her partnership, her business partner, and dropping all of her 46,000 followers, and like tossing the baby out with the bathwater. And you don't want to, but in order for your soul to reach the next evolution, or your consciousness, or if you just want to think about it, your own like physical being, your own personality, wherever you fall on the spiritual spectrum at this point, you gotta watch something die, like you were saying, in order to do it. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the hardest lessons that we can write on our soul contract in relation to business, because I mean, some people think communication is hard. Some people think, leading other people inside of a business is hard. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like, at least for me, those lessons, easy. I would take those any day. Me having to one day say, like, well, one day, that's already come. Me like switching up what like my business model looks like, and having to now like defend that is like a huge thing for me. And I was like, no, I was one of those people that you were talking about, of like, I'm gonna get there and I'm just gonna say like I already like worked very hard. I just want to have my time in the sun. My time in the sun is very short lived, and I'm already moving on to the next thing. Um, there is a question: is there a too old time to become an entrepreneur? Who wants to jump in on this?
I will. I will. There is no too old time, period. Like the truth is like it's less about age and it's more about drive. It's more about desire. It's more about knowing that this is available to you and that you are the type of person that is going to make this happen. That's the energy that you have to be in. It's that knowing that you have to be in. And now obviously like there are smarter ways to grow your business. Like this is the truth of it, right? Like I actually loved when we were talking about this is a lot of my clients will come in and they'll be like, I know I get my people results. Like I know I do. Like I watch them. They tell me these things. And then they just have no connection to their work. They have no connection to the how they get their people results. They haven't paid enough attention or reflected enough on how they get that work in the first place. And so to me, it's like whatever route you go, basically, Nikki and I were just saying this, like whatever route you go, like give reverence to every part of that journey, understanding what you're doing at a deeper layer than the surface of like, oh, I'm just trying to make a sale, or I'm trying to get this product out there, or I'm trying to book a client, or whatever it is. Like, go beyond that and really pay attention to how you're going to serve these people, what that looks like, how you can enhance that, um, how you can articulate that better to your people, and really like sit in that space of like, okay, the deeper that I go into this product, into this space, into this offer, whatever it is, this service, the deeper that I go with understanding that, the closer you're going to be to success, period. Because like that's truly what it is like, like I've said this before, but like I can sell anything to anybody. We are always selling things to people. Abigail, you've probably heard me say this. Like literally one time I was doing a gut health 30-day protocol where it was like no sugar, no gluten, no caffeine, no alcohol. You had to have 30 different plants a week. Like it was tough. There was a lot of toughness. And I like walked into my sister's house and I was radiating. My energy was like, oh, as you can imagine, right? Like it was like, that was like the perfection of a month that I've ever had in my entire life. And everybody was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. And I was like, oh yeah, you want to know? I stopped drinking alcohol. I've had no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no caffeine, and I feel amazing. Do you want in? And literally everybody was like, can you give me the link? Can you give me the link? I'm in. Like I will do it. And it was simply because I was speaking at it from a space that they understood, a desire that they understood. That's like when I say like grounding our message, so it's not star tennis, right? So they understood that. And it was so genuine. Like I literally genuinely was like, I want everybody to do this. I didn't know you could feel this good. Like I genuinely think that the whole world should be on a gut health protocol diet. Like that was that moment for me. And so again, though, it was like I had spent time understanding that product. I had spent time understanding the ins and outs, the whys behind it, the science. Like it was an entire investment that I had to spend time in. And I gave it that reverence. And I immediately left that house that day and 4 people bought the damn thing. Like that wasn't even my product, but I sold it. And like, how many times are you talking to a girlfriend or a spouse or a partner or whatever, and you're literally like, oh my God, like my new shampoo, it feels so great. You have to try it. You have to try it. Oh, I got this new cream for my face, and like, oh, it's like velvety butter. Touch my face. Don't you want it? Like we literally do this all the time. And I always say like people who are super spiritual, like have super spiritual businesses, you guys will literally market and sell planet Earth like nobody's business. Like literally go outside and ground yourself. Get outside. You just got to go outside. You're like hugging trees. You're showing everybody that this is what you got to do. And it's like you're literally marketing for planet Earth. But like, can you market yourself? Can you market yourself? Like that's honestly like just market yourself. Like shift your focus away from what planet Earth is going to give you and incorporate how you're going to help them by using planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? And so that to me is like just from an entrepreneur standpoint, I don't think anybody is too old. You just have to be willing. You have to be willing. And much like Nikki said, and I just talked about this, like 60% of failure. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to try again, to pick yourself up, to say, no matter what, this is where I'm going. Like, this is the end result. I know I'm going to get there. Whatever that road looks like to getting there, it's fine. Because I know in the end, this is where I'm arriving. And there's no other reality I'm available for. And just keep going. That's the truth.
You bring up a good point. And I want to hear Nikki's perspective on this. One of the things that I brought this up in the parented edition, and I feel like it's valid here too. It's something that I say to new nurses when they're coming in, whether they're like student nurses or they're brand new baby nurses straight off the NCLEX. And I'm like, your worst day when you're covered in every conceivable bodily fluid and you've maybe lost a patient, or maybe people were mean to you and you had to go to the bathroom 1,000 times to just like pull yourself together and not cry on the floor, or not start yelling at people in triage. The worst day has to be your best day, because you wouldn't be fulfilled any other way. Nikki, do you believe that this is something that is relevant to business? Because I mean, as we've all said here, entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart. So would you agree with that, or do you think that there are caveats to that, and where do you feel like they are if you do?
No, I mean, gosh, I never thought about it. That's so beautiful. I was so caught up in like how hard being a nurse is when you were telling that story. And Allie, my daughter, wants to study to be a nurse, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like scared for my child who like wants to do this thing that is so
For my way, I'll scare her straight.
I know, so challenging. But I think that's a beautiful perspective. I think I'm gonna like use that myself. Like definitely like kind of I think that's a good way of like self-mothering yourself through the process. And that's actually like what I was when I saw Sylvia's question, like, is there a too old time to become an entrepreneur? I was really thinking about the inner mother. And I think that like what you were saying, like you have learned to care for yourself, and that those are things that you tell yourself to be able to get through a hard thing. And I think entrepreneurship at an older age is really kind of like this like inner child desire, like the same way that maybe like when I'm, I don't know, in my mid 40s, I'm like, you know what, I think I'm going to take some acting classes, like, and that, or I'm going to take a writing class, which sounds bizarre, you know, like I remember wanting like transitioning to be a writer at 25 and feeling very old because a lot of the writers and editors I was working with knew they wanted to be writers when they were like 16. So I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't go to school for this and all that. So I mean, I think that feeling happens all the time, but I do feel that like it's a desire that's coming within you, it's a calling that's coming within you, and the most loving thing that you can do for yourself is let yourself like follow this call that's calling you. And the reason that you're starting old or later or too late, whatever it is because the people that raised you probably didn't notice that this was your personality and this is what would have been good for you. Like I was showing signs of being a writer at 14 years old. I would write like novelas, like I would write like novels. I didn't have a love life because I was like too scared to like date when I was like a teenager, but all my friends had love lives and I would write about their love lives. And then like I didn't even know my mom was such a snoop, and she was like reading. She knew I was writing these things, and she never stopped to be like, my daughter is a writer, and she missed that. So it was my responsibility in my late 20s to reparent myself and be like, hey, Nikki, I think you're a writer. And yeah, you might be a little older than because writing is something too that like I lost some years. You know, I was trying to get a job with people that were my age, but I just started writing, and these people like, you know, went to 4 years of college, even had like grad degrees. So I was like, yeah, late to the game athlete, and it felt really shitty, but it was the most loving thing that I can do for myself. And listen, even as an entrepreneur, Sylvia, you're going to reinvent yourself a million times, right? Like I have already reinvented myself, and every time I reinvent myself, like, and I'm not going to stop. I'm 41. Like I'll probably be reinventing myself in my 60s, my 70s, all that. Like I am not going to be the one wearing the AT&T shirt at the garden. I will be doing something totally different. And I do that because it is my role as like the adult and the mother in my life for myself right now to honor all the truths about me that were missed by my parents. And listen, I have 3 kids and I'm missing a bunch of their talents for sure. I'm doing my best to spot most of them and guide them, but I'm gonna miss them. And you know, they're gonna be 30 and they're gonna be like, hey mom, you never knew that I was a singer. I was like, oh shit, no, totally missed that one. And it's gonna be their responsibility to be like, I signed up for some singing classes and I'll go to show up to their singing classes at that age, you know? So I think, Sylvia, from what I'm hearing from you is that it was missed, that would have been a good gift for you, and that like you have it within you, and that to say that you're too old is really to deny the inner child in you that has so much like more to give, you know? So I think it's the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves, especially as we age.
These are questions, guys. I know that we go through this and they're hitting you with like bombshells. I just want to take this moment right now to say, like, if you got any questions about soul contract entrepreneurship, leadership, please throw them in the chats right now before we start to end here, and then we're like racing to like type in our questions. Because I hate that when they do that. I like, you tell me now, you're leaving me with 3 seconds to write out a whole paragraph of story. So if you got one, feel free now. One of probably the last questions that we'll get here, just because if there are any questions, we'll be able to answer them. For you guys, we already talked about like the stickiest parts, the meanest parts being an entrepreneur and like battling your way through that and the change and all that. For you guys, because as you know, I was saying, the worst day has to be your best day. What for you guys is like the best part about being an entrepreneur? You know, if you have one. I don't want to limit you. So feel free.
Yeah.
I'm go first.
I honestly, I always say this, like part of my work that I'm doing in this lifetime is to be able to celebrate myself to the degree at which I celebrate my clients. Right. So like watching my clients win and have breakthroughs and like the ahas, and especially after like grounding their work. Like I just had a call yesterday with a client. She's been in her business for 12 years. She's wildly successful. It's amazing. But like from a grounded perspective, it's just not there. And so when we sat down, she was like, Kim, I know you gave me this assignment to figure out my process and to like reflect back, and I just can't do it. And I was like, okay, no problem. This is a call. Let's go ahead. Let's flush it out. Let's get to it. And at the end of it, you could, the way that I see it, it's like the way that I see it and I smell it. Okay. So in that moment, I could see that the light came back on in her eyes, and I could smell her conviction in her work growing. And it was like that moment of like, I'm so in my lane. I'm so in my genius. I'm so exactly where I'm supposed to be. And she's mirroring back to me how aligned I am in this moment. And now she gets to go out and really, I use the word reverence all the time, like give her work the reverence it deserved from the beginning. And now she's gonna like explode even more. Like in my eyes, I'm like, she was this successful before, like she's about to go like, I'm so excited. Like I genuinely, it's watching people, and I say win and I say results, and like that's me, but like that's just because I have like very tangible markers, right? Like sometimes results are an objective truth. Sometimes it is they're subjective. It's based on what that individual is feeling. And so that to me, beyond the money wins, beyond like the success, beyond all that shit, it's seeing them fully come into their own and standing in that with deeper conviction than they've ever stood. Like, geez, does that feel so good in my body? So good.
Miss Nikki.
Oh, so many things that I love about entrepreneurship, but maybe some of you have heard me talk about this before, and it gets me like very emotional. But I was raised by a very bitter mother. She was very smart, very capable, and in her era, it was either you stay home with kids or you work, and you're out all day. And my dad is a physician, and she's definitely the smarter one in the relationship, right? And she made the sacrifice of being like, no, like I want to be with my kids. And she made that decision, but she was always bitter about it. She really raised us like kind of like just feeling like she did not live into her full potential. And I grew up around that. And I remember being like, that's not going to be me. Like, I'm going to find a way to do both and be both. So entrepreneurship, and just technology in general, which is why I've always been like really into technology, is it allows me to do both. And I'm just like eternally grateful for that. Like I can be fulfilled personally and be the kind of mom that I want to be. It's like, man, like I am just so grateful for that. And as an artist, because like at my core, I'm like an artist and creative, and that's like, performer, all those kind of things. It also, gives me space to do things the way that I want to do them. And it's like really a form of like self-love for me, is to like, because I've had really great jobs, but I've always had to leave pieces of myself behind to be able to be good at those jobs. And in this job, like I don't have to leave any pieces behind. On the contrary, I see way too many pieces of myself. When you're an entrepreneur, you see all the pieces and you're like, can we like compartmentalize this one? Like we don't need this one in here. But it's the fullness of me that's allowed to come into this business. And so to me, it's like just a form of self-love. And I'm also just, as I know a lot of people are impressed by like my intuitive gifts and obviously like those abilities, but I also like really love business, and that is it very much like captivates me. And I think business and entrepreneurship is very creative, so I find like that it catches my attention. I'm not bored. I get to like like when you're working a regular job, you have to be very specialized, especially when you're in a corporation. Like, your job, for better or for worse, is very specialized. And like, obviously when you run your own business, you wear many hats, some that you don't want to wear. And but I think there's such a good part of that, because like some days that you're like, I really don't want to wear that hat today. Like, I just want to do like admin work. And there's days like that for me that I'm like, let me pay the taxes and let me like talk to my accountant, because like that's all. Like, I don't want to be creative today. Like, I don't want to whatever. I don't want to be the podcast host or whatever. So I think that there's a lot of flexibility as to like how you want to show up, and really making it your own. So I feel grateful to be like alive during this time where women, and where technology is like where it's at, so that women specifically can really take advantage, and yeah, not have to live so like linearly and stuck in those hours. I don't, oh my gosh, it would just not work for me. So just, yeah.
I love that. Flexibility is one of those things where if you crave it, entrepreneurship can be the best thing for you or the worst thing for you. Sometimes it's like too much flexibility, and I can definitely see how like you've got it in spades where you're able to like take what you built and just like you maximize your flexibility to the max. Like, it's a talent that, like, if you could bottle that and sell it, I would be like grabbing it off the shelf, because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I work within my confines, but you have so much joy in it, and I'm just like, God damn it, I need a keeper.
Get yourself some kids. Get yourself some kids, and then like you really get serious about your time. You're like, like I have like how many animals, and like two that live in my house, like three children. So like you really learn to manage your time, So I'll send you some of my kids, Abby.
Okay, Sylvia asks, I have noticed how the spiritual world of entrepreneurship is booming. Is there room for everyone, or could it just become a trend? That's actually a good question. I know that.
Solid question for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, I don't think so. Like, I think entrepreneurship in and of itself is booming. Like, there is a niche and a subset of the spiritual entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship, period. Like, we're in like, I'm sure, like when we zoom out 100 years from now, we're going to call this period the Great Awakening. 100%. And we're going to look at how many people were leaving their corporate positions, trying to create jobs, trying to create different avenues of income in whatever capacity that they felt called to, in whatever creative endeavor they felt called to. The way that I look at it is, even if I actually like literally have been playing with this thought quite a bit in my head lately, that even if all of us entrepreneurs decided that we were all just going to invest in each other and invest in our courses and invest in our products and in our services, and we were all just exchanging money together, we'd all be winning. Like, that is the truth of it. Even if the rest of the world decides they want to stay in the corporate reality and this is what they're doing and this is how they're making money and that feels great to them, that's awesome. Go for it. We need you too. Maybe. I don't know. AI is a thing. That could become a thing, I don't know. But like from an
move men underground and use them only for breeding. Like, split it.
Yeah. But like, that's where, like, for me, it's like, even if it was just us and it was this industry that we're all in the growth oriented industry, we're all in the healing industry, we're all in the expansion industry, we're in the, whether you want to look at it from like, maybe you're a fitness coach, maybe you're somebody that's a nutrition coach, maybe you are a energy reader, maybe you are a brand developer, maybe you are a whatever, like, there's so many different avenues here. And the truth is like, when I look at my journey and who I've invested in and what I continue to invest in, one thing I know for sure is I won't quit investing. Like, I will continuously put myself in different spaces that I'm being invited into in that season and that evolution and that standpoint. Sometimes for me, that's been like really spiritual, in-depth programs where it's like, okay, this is what I need right now. This is what my body is craving. This is what my soul is craving. I'm going to invest in that. And other seasons, it's like, oh God, no, girl, we got to invest in our business right in this moment. Like, this is the next avenue. So we're going to go down that route. But then there are other times where, like right now, I'm literally actively scoping out the internet, trying to find my next coach that's not my business coach, that's a different type of coach that can just essentially hold me to living my best life in every area of my life. Like, if we all, if worst case scenario, we were only the consumers that were available, cool thing is we all know the power in investing in ourselves. And we all know that that's what I want to do. That's how I'm choosing to grow, and that's how I'm choosing to expand. And so I don't personally think that it's a trend. I think that there are people in the industry who won't stay in the industry. And maybe it's a moment in their evolution for them. And maybe it was a trend for them. But I believe that the people that are really truly in this for the long haul, they're not going to stop. We're just not going to stop. You can't stop. Like, much like Nikki was saying, like, you get to this next space, you get to this mountain, and it's either you, the universe, something is now telling you, like, we're going next. We're going to the next thing. Abigail, like, we've talked so many times about how, like, we're never stopping this growth. We're never stopping this expansion. And so I think, like, that's the key here is one, understanding a competitive advantage that you have, how you're unique, how your product or how your service is literally the best thing for your target demographic, for your ideal client. Like, it is the best thing for them. It's the next best thing. If you can hone in and create that, whatever that looks like, and it could literally be anything. There are people that do it in courses, they do it in one-to-one readings, they do it in long-term coaching, they do it in digital products, like whatever it is, and whatever avenue you feel called towards, as long as that product is developed enough, you've given it enough time and reflection so that we know this is a rock solid offer, this is a rock solid product. As long as you have that, people are always going to be consuming. People are always going to be purchasing. That's not going away. And even if the whole world doesn't move to entrepreneurship, people are literally buying things every single day. Why is your product or your service any different?
Exactly.
Kim, I love that perspective of like, if we just like buy from each other, we're like good, because there is a lot of talk about the coaching industry that it's like just a pyramid scheme, that like we're just kind of like selling to each other. And I'm like, oh God, like I've definitely heard that before. But I mean, to that point, it's like, and so what? Like, even if it looks like that, it's a group of people that are interested in this this like growth path. So I just enjoyed that perspective. So thank you. Who was it that asked this? Sylvia, you were the one that question. Okay. So as somebody who like, I don't really consider myself a coach. I'm like a really like a practitioner just on steroids, obviously like a very successful practitioner, but you might as well see me as like the doctor that you're going to that like works in an office. That's really pretty much kind of what I am. And I've thought about this question before because I train so many young healers who have like dreams of becoming to doing this work full time, and I hold that very seriously, and I don't want to like mislead people and be like, oh my gosh, I'm training these people, are they going to be able to like get a job, are they going to be able to make it? And obviously my training is not about making it, my training is really just the training, but I still worry about whether like it's a scam. So I've thought about this a lot, and I've seen so many students and thought about this. And Sylvia, I believe that like the industry, especially like for practitioners and healers, you want to look at all of us collectively as like an army. So I've never been in the army, but I know that there's ranks, right? Like when you first start off, you're on the ground and you're fighting like the good fight. And that was me doing readings 5 a day for $80, back to back to back to back. I obviously don't operate that way anymore because my expertise is needed somewhere else. So like now I'm training and I'm doing less of the readings and I'm like more up, like I'm kind of pulling back. but that also makes room for all the different like healers that are supposed that like then take that place. So there is a lot of like promotions and kind of like moving up, and we it's such a big war that we're fighting. There is such a need for healing, and that we're all doing it together. So we're not really like competitors, we're more like colleagues, and we all like kind of move because, and sometimes people just get burnt out. It's just like nursing, right? It's like you have to have a lot of compassion, and there's a lot of burnout in the industry. So if I need to take a year off, but I know that Abby is like doing the good work, like I can take a year off and like know that there's all these people that I've trained that are going to like continue the work that I started years ago. So that's definitely like, that's like very important to understand that there is a constant like transition in the space. Also, I would say from being in a space early and like kind of where we are right now, I've like, I mean, it's amazing to me how much like the industry has grown and how it just continues to grow. Like people that you would never think are interested in this kind of work are waking up to it. And I find that like spiritual, whether it's healing, energy work, intuitive readings, like anything in that space has actually become part of people's holistic kind of toolbox. Like people are no longer just going to the doctor. Like if I had like these bumps on my like my skin on my breast the other day, and of course I'm going to like I'm going to my doctor. I went to my doctor and he's, you know, we did all the tests and it wasn't anything scary. And then of course I went to the dermatologist because it's like a skin thing. But I also went to Lindsay Walker, who was trained under me, who does these like body scans and these healings. I also went to like an energy healer that I know. So people, the way people are approaching healing, and we see this in the medical industry, is becoming much more holistic. And pretty much like most people, even the people you wouldn't expect, I'm reading like tech executives and huge investors and like these people that you would never think would want anything to do with like our space. And it's because I'm part of their toolkit. I have this, one of my favorite clients is like a really big guy in Wall Street, and I'm on his calendar every quarter. Like he's like my quarterly meeting with my spiritual advisor is like the way that he calls it. And I mean, it's not like he's going around telling people that he's doing this. He's actually like really into his church and all those things. But I've become part of like his success toolkit. So as millennials get older, they're the ones that just know that this is about that, and then they're bringing their kids to these people. So our kids, like my children, as they get older, when they have their own issues, they know that they're going to see probably 3 people for the same issue. So we're not really competing. We're actually all working together because we're taking more of a holistic approach, because we're not putting like all our eggs in one basket anymore. So it's still a growing industry.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me, and Kim and Nikki. You guys have just been so amazing. I could squish your faces. I love you guys so much. The work that you guys do is so profound and so necessary and needed, and just the wisdom that you guys have dropped here today is going to resonate for many years to come. And I'm so excited to be able to offer this to everybody. All right, guys, we did it. That was the end of the business and leadership edition of our Soul Contract series. It was so amazing. I'm so excited that you were able to share this with us and to take a listen. I hope you learned something. Of course, all of the ways to work with these amazing women, Nikki and Kim, are down in the show notes. Go ahead and check out the organizations that they are uplifting, and we will see you in our 4th and final edition of this Soul Contract series, which is our mental health edition. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we will see you on the next Breath of Life Conversations. Bye.